Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Outer Realm with myself, Michelle DeRoche, and Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live on the International Public Radio right here on United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. And also big thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for the contribution of his voice for our intro and our outro. And thank you for the phenomenal music. Lots of compliments on it.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, we welcome back friend and past guest Nathaniel Gillis. And his topic of discussion is going to be a little controversial for some. You know, we have our lovers, we have our haters when it comes to this stuff. For ETs, alien deceptions, and soul hunters. Interesting, really interesting. To participate in tonight's show, you have 8 different platforms to find us on. You can find us on Facebook, Outer Realm, of course. You can find us on Canada's Most Haunted, Michelle DeRoche, United Public Radio, and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, Facebook News on the flip side. And you've got Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. Then, of course, find us on YouTube, UFO Paranormal Radio. And I believe we have International Public Radio tonight. And we are on Twitch, of course, UFO Paranormal Radio. So you can go to any of those platforms. We will see all of your messages come up here in the stream with a big hello to Zachman, Axel, Wayne, Tamara. There we all are. So I'm going to send this over to Nathaniel. And there we go. Now we wait. So, how are you? How are you?
Other than the mad rush with Facebook knocking me out of my own account.
Nice.
Okay,
It's a good way to start off the evening, isn't it? Yeah, awesome.
Just so frustrating because I had everything set up on here because I have a new microphone. I have new headset. Right. So I made sure that I set this up. This was at 5:30.
Right.
To come back and not be able to even get into my Facebook account on anything, not my iPad, not my iPhone, not anywhere.
Oh,
it was so frustrating.
That's not good.
So yeah, so I was just really pissed off. But anyways, the microphone works really well.
Well, this is good. I'm just messaging our guest back.
Yeah, no problem. This was really great. I've got, as you guys can see, this bright red light, new mic. Other one died. Anyways, it's great. Plug and play. Love it.
Right. Well, this is good.
This is my favorite color, so we're happy. Except I've got an elastic.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo thing happening right now.
No, because I'm adjusting there.
Ah.
I just had to adjust the bounce in this.
The bounce.
I'm not going to continue promoting this because I don't get paid from them. But I do love it.
Hey Michelle. Hey John.
Hi everyone. How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Still January, isn't it?
Sadly, yes, it is. We are still in January. It's bloody heck erratic weather, and
it's freaking freezing here in Ontario. I can tell you that. It is really cold. You better put those animals inside. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is super cold.
Yeah, it's been a little bit crazy. I haven't really ventured very far. Today was just a day of dealing with potential guests who I have to say it'll be interesting if we can hammer out some details on a couple things. So you see people, I do pay attention when those messages do come in. We do try to aim to please with certain topic matter, whether it be controversial or not. And there's some stuff coming up where, you might have some people kind of go,
"Oh, Zach, shut up, Zach."
Yeah, you're gonna get. So, yeah, we don't want to hear about it.
Shut up, Zach. Talk about how warm it is. That's nice.
So you have to remember here on the Outer Realm, just because we have topic matter that we discuss, we have certain guests on, it doesn't necessarily mean it is our viewpoint. But we are very open-minded here, and we like to present something for everyone. and we ask that you guys have an open mind. And this is a form of entertainment, but it's also a bit of a classroom. At least it is for us. And I know, judging by the feedback that we get, that it's definitely a feedback or it's definitely, a classroom for some of you as well. So, the millions of people who listen, I'm sure there's people out there going, wow. So there's really good stuff coming up. And tonight is, it might be, for the ufologists, they might look at that and go, the exopolitic people are going to go, yeah, maybe.
Then you get the religious that are going to go, what?
Yeah, there's got to be a balance. I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
I think I sit right in the middle.
Yeah,
of everybody. I love learning. I love hearing other people's thoughts, perspectives, and whatever evidence they've collected. A lot of people have cases that they bring forth, evidence to back their theories. But I'm always interested in listening. And as Michelle said, we don't always agree, but we're always respectful and open-minded.
You have to be, because
very important.
Can't pretend. I've been doing this a long time, and I certainly learn something new every single day. I definitely am far from having all the answers, and I relish new knowledge and different perspectives. And that's right, learning different viewpoints is good. I agree. This is stuff that I've heard before, so I've heard about not so much dubbed soul hunters, but there's definitely some stuff going on out there, and it's really interesting to see different people's takes on it. So I'm really looking forward to the topic personally. So
I've been following Nathaniel on Facebook and his posts and his views, and he wows me every single time. So I'm really looking forward to this. I was glad that we had an opening for him. I didn't want to wait too long for this. I think it's really hot in the field, a hot topic right now.
It is for sure.
Exactly. And I'm open to learning something new and love seeing evidence and research a guest brings. Thank you. So do we.
We're always evolving. And I find that we have a lot of people, repeat guests come on. And it's interesting because their research also keeps evolving. So it's really cool to see where they take it. Oh, look at that. Wouldn't be a show without the bots. They're on YouTube. Thank you. Just to make it that much better in the chat. Love
that just means we're interesting. That's why I know. Here. That's okay. That's okay.
I know.
That's all good.
I know. It's like, wow, that's just awesome. So we are just waiting for Nathaniel to come in. Did you want to do you have his short bio in front of you?
I do. He gave us a new bio, and I thought, I love it so much that I'm just going to read what he wrote, because he wrote it the best. Nathaniel Gillis, for those of you that haven't seen him on our show anymore, shame on you. You have to go into the archives and listen to him. He is an author, a lecturer, and religious demonologist. His research regarding the UFO abduction phenomenon has become a thought leader in the field of ufology. While his discipline is the study of demonology in biblical antiquity, he doesn't hold to many dogmas religion offers, but instead believes consciousness to be the key. Nathaniel is often quoted for his concept of the phenomena. They are playing, quote, they are playing by different rules because they are playing a different game, unquote. Love it.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know, right? It is one of those dun, dun, dun movements. Dun, dun, dun. It really is. But so we'll see. Is he near?
He is. Are we ready?
Okay. Hope nobody's messaging me in Messenger, because I don't have one.
Like, we're good. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Here we are, everybody. Nathaniel Gillis. Hey.
Oh, what's going on, my friends?
Hi, how are you?
What's up?
Same old.
Yeah. Wow. I like the new hair, Amelia.
Oh, geez, thanks. I went back to my literally back to my roots.
Really?
Yeah, I went back to my natural color. It's crazy getting out right now, right? Thanks. It's crazy getting out, and it's a little scary. So I said, this I can handle. I used to do hair a long time ago, so It's all cool. But thank you. How are you doing?
Cool. Man, I still recovering from COVID. My voice is shot still. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had Omicron a few weeks ago, and I still have a sore throat.
It's nuts, man. Like I was scheduled to do a conference with somebody, and had to cancel that. And I moved back some of my shows because, and I told Michelle, I'm like, look, man, my voice is shot. I can't, like, and that's you're supposed to talk on shows. You can't have dead air. It's like draw on a piece of paper and just hold it up one by one.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
I don't think anybody like it.
Doesn't have as much oomph to it, but we can improvise.
But it was difficult. But I lost like 20 pounds, man. So I'm just glad to be back with you guys. It's been a while, and I have a lot of new research that your audience did not hear since. So it's going to be interesting.
I know. Well, it definitely, piqued our interest, and I think it's a really hot topic matter right now for sure. Mm-hmm. Since disclosure, everybody's sort of been wanting more.
Right.
And there's so many different perspectives when it comes to all of this. So tell us what you've been up to. What's the new research about? Go.
Well, all right. Go, Gadget.
Well, I've been really watching you carefully on Facebook, and I love your point of view. So I can't wait.
Okay. That could be a dangerous thing, though, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nate just hops on there, and, things happen. So, no, for real, like my research now is centered around connecting the different dots and how ancient demonology was our ancestors' interpretation of this modern phenomenon, and how these entities have evolved throughout history according to our awareness of them. And I really do believe, guys, we're dealing with the same entities. It's just that we've been calling them different names throughout millennia. Their behavioral patterns are intimately connected. They've been doing the same things for a long time. Collecting samples from men and trying to implant them in women. We would call that the incubi and succubi phenomenon. And so what I've been doing now is, because I've been doing more shows on like ufology and stuff with other like actual podcasts specifically, but nothing to do with paranormal, but just ufologist podcasts. And thankfully they've allowed me to, what's up, Chris?
Hi, Chris.
Thankfully, they've allowed me to hop on and share this data, because I think that a lot of researchers, especially your ufologists, maybe perhaps they have a dislike for religion, or they're not aware of this literature. But I think that once we realize that if we are dealing with the same entities, then we're not limited to the modern 21st century abduction phenomenon. We have data sample. We have literature that we can read and indulge in that can help us understand more about this phenomenon. Because whether we like it or not, people are being stolen from their own bodies. We're going to get into that. Taken, their souls snatched out of their body, and we can't stop it. And I think that that's really where my research is centered around right now. And I'm excited to be back with you guys. It's really an honor.
Oh my gosh, it's all ours.
It's always a pleasure. I personally, I'm fairly versed on everything that you're talking about with, alien deception. Some people call them soul hunters, others soul stealers. I think, hey, Kristen, I think realistically, again, there's some people who have good experiences, other people who have bad experiences. It sounds to me like you're leaning towards, those who are having really horrific experiences, if they're even aware.
Even if they're aware, that's a very good point. And I will say this: there's a movement within the field of ufology that is trying to suppress negative experiencers, not just the experiences. I've had women reach out to me, say, you know what, I was supposed to be a part of a study, a part of a book, and once they sat down with me and I told them my story, they shut me down. They didn't email me back. They'd stopped calling me, and they didn't want to deal with what I had to say. And I've checked with other researchers that are, I wouldn't say more prominent, but they travel, more often than I do and do conferences. And they've ran into some of these people that are trying to suppress this data from reaching the world. And they've talked to them about it. And I mean, they've got passionate. Yeah, of course we are, because we're tired of the threat narrative being pushed. But again, I do believe the data speaks to a massive deception going on. They're not asking for permission to do this to people. They're not knocking on the doors and saying, can I do this? And I think that it's high time that we as researchers need to at least assess them as a threat. Because God forbid, if China did what they're doing, it's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happened is I think that in many cases, we don't have large enough handcuffs to lock them up in. And so we kind of gaslight experiencers into thinking, okay, it's no big deal. It's a big deal when they pull your soul from your body without your permission and do things to it. That's a massive deal, at least in my book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find, even people who have some of the best experiences, they're still having them the same way. Some people it's hard to get your head around somebody just showing up when you're at your most vulnerable point, basically when you're asleep, in the dark in your room. And, it's a hard pill to swallow. It takes a lot to get used to. There are a lot of people out there who have experiences. They're taken on board ships. Some people are having their lives saved. They're having their illness like cancer treated. We have to be very specific about the fact that this is not all extraterrestrial species or races. This is just a specific species or two or three. Right? Okay. I just want to be clear on that. We have a lot of people come on and talk about experiences, and some of them are pretty good. So
some of them I want, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. And my work specifically deals with these soul hunters, because not all species, again, if you're looking at the physicality of them, I mean, there's more physical abductions than anything. Tamara, it's a good point.
Right. But, she has a point.
Yeah, it's home invasion. Can't dress it up as anything else for those who aren't watching, but those who are listening. Okay, sorry, Nathaniel.
No, you're good. And it is home invasion, and if we're being invaded by anything, we're being invaded by the seemingly impossible. I think that's the biggest thing about this. We're dealing with any kind of species, at least the entities that are abducting people. They'll walk into your home and press pause on everything. Everything. Time stands still. You're in a dream state. Your dog doesn't move. Your family doesn't move. And then they pluck you out of yourself, or even they take your body with them. And then next thing you know, you have missing time. And then 20 years later, you start having PTSD of trauma. Memories start reaching the surface, and you're wondering what happened. And I think that even if it wasn't all of them doing this, it doesn't matter if it's 1%. The deal here is we are dealing with a species that will invade us at any point, and they do not care. One of my biggest concerns now is the fact that there is at least one species that understands the afterlife. It understands what the soul is. It understands the body. They have the ability to keep the body alive while taking the soul out. And the individual during the abduction is experiencing it in real time. And I always mention this case because I think it was one of the very first cases that mentions the soul hunter aspect, that Betty Luca, stolen out of her body, remembers leaving it, floating out into the ship. Her husband, Bob, watches it. And in the paranormal community, we would consider that an apparition. It steals that apparition out of her. We got a problem. We have a massive, massive problem, because even Betty Luca one night when she was going to bed, Bob, her husband, is on the side of the bed putting his socks on. And in a fleeting moment, she blinks her eyes and he's in two places at once in the room. What is going on? Right? And I think it's important because it's that hidden, unseen potential within us that they're interested in, and that we as a species are ignorant of to this point. What is that of us? What is it? Is it constitution? Is it the soul? Is it the astral body? We don't know. But they're keen into it. They're very educated. So I think that's what grieves me the most about the entire thing here.
Right. And where do you think, where do you think, or what have your contactees, experiencers, where do you think they're taking them?
I think it's an interdimensional place. I have a theory that I've been working on in the darkness, the shadows, where it's like the goldfish when you stick a finger in a tank or a lake or something, and a goldfish sees a very small portion of the finger.
That's right.
Not outside of the lake, not outside of the water, not realizing it's the iceberg effect. There's more outside. Literally the opposite, flip. There's more outside in that next dimension than what we're able to see in this. And so that's why I believe a lot of experiencers, when they go into this 10-foot craft, they step out of that water into their dimension, and that craft is now the size of an aircraft carrier. Right. So it's literally like they're pulling us through a portal into whatever dimension they exist in. And I'm not to say that I don't believe there are nuts and bolts crafts. I think obviously the data sample speaks highly of those. Right. But that's not to say we're not seeing giant orb-like species out there flying around that are doing this. So, you know, it's nuts and bolts, but I do believe consciousness plays a role in this in a massive way.
Absolutely. So obviously, she was brought back into her body.
Correct.
Okay. Because I know there are cases, you know, where spirits or the essence is removed and they're taken off world. They're put into, again, just, you know, what I've researched. I don't shoot the messenger.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, they go off world, maybe inhabiting a body that exists on another planet better suited for that place, or allegedly some are being kidnapped. They're taken and put in bodies that are being used as slaves. There's even stories of essence and sometimes even bits of the brain that are going into artificial intelligence elsewhere.
Yes.
So
and it's interesting.
This is stuff that's floating around out there, people. Like this is, you know,
and it's you know, this is it's fascinating because the technology that we're witnessing with these entities, it's not like we haven't seen this throughout history. We first learned of this technology through necromancy, merging consciousness with metal. Your idolaters in biblical antiquity would take the consciousness of a loved one, excuse me,
of course,
and that when they would merge the consciousness with the metal, and now that consciousness, that ghost, has an image of itself to inhabit. And so what they also did, this is interesting too, the teraphim, another aspect of necromancy and idolatry, they would go and they would find a dead body, a corpse, usually a male, usually recently deceased. Gosh, still have that lingering cough.
Do you use honey?
No, I don't. No.
Okay.
It's weird.
I don't like the taste of it either, but it's really healing on your throat. And for the vegans out there, please forgive me, but it really is healing on your throat. Raw honey. But even just from the spoon right there, like a organic, really raw organic will help you.
We could take a break if you need it at any point. So don't feel you don't have to rush through the conversation.
We'll get through it. So the idolater would go out and he would find a corpse, and then he would take that corpse, put it in his house, and then he would take a small piece of metal and carve the name of that entity into it. Implant, hello, UFO abduction phenomenon. Implant that piece of metal into the body of the corpse. Consciousness would then possess it. Now, I do believe that is the origin of the implant in a modern UFO abduction phenomenon. I believe that's how that they have access to many people. In case of UFO abduction, we have people that have had implants that have literally been looking through their eyes as the ship is approaching their home, where these entities will literally turn on a unified field of consciousness, a unified stream of consciousness. And there's a switching of eyes. So the necromantic rituals of antiquity, their technology, is witnessed throughout all of the UFO abduction phenomenon, the ability to pull a soul out of a body, to take it and place it in another person. They're switching. It's fascinating. So this is not it's not something that we're not aware of. We just don't know how they're doing it. Just like in antiquity, we had necromancers who were doing rituals. They couldn't tell you how these buttons were pushed or why these levers worked or why a certain incantation tapped into that next dimension and thinned the veil, but we knew it worked for a reason, So that's where we are with the research. But again, if we're dealing with the species, like Dr. Colin Turner had an individual who was abducted, and Jesus walked up to her, held his hand out, and said, "All seed is mine." Now, this is troubling to me in many aspects, because she then has intercourse with the entity, goes back to her real world, and she's thinking, some of the, is it a dream state? What actually happened? Was it real? What actually, I remember some pieces of it, but what really happened? So she's getting her memories back slowly. And one day she pulls her husband aside and says, "Hey, listen, this is not going to be a viable fetus. This will not survive full-term pregnancy." How did she know that? Right? Number one, that fetus did not come from the union of her and her husband. This is interesting, guys. This is very, very, very troubling. So then the child passes away, and then she's in a room in an office with Dr. Carla Turner, and she's crying, and she said, "What I don't understand is the next time they abducted me, they handed me a baby that was a hybrid child."
Right. Yep.
And the consciousness of the child I lost was lodged in that hybrid baby. So we do not know if the hybridization program is purely about creating babies, or if they're harvesting consciousness in the process. Yeah, this is really what we're dealing with. I've had them come across shows and scream at me when I start talking about this stuff, because it's not all love and light, And if they have that capability to hatch consciousness within an individual and use it according to their purpose, then we're the ugly cousin at dinner. Right? We are not the species we thought we were. We're being manipulated.
Do you think this is like a version, like I say, a reincarnation almost, where they're taking your species, like your essence, and putting it into, blood? I mean, it's bloodline, but it's hybrid. Right. But let's face it, it's evolution. I mean, they've been hybridizing humans now for hundreds, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. There have been a lot of people on this planet long before us.
Right, right. Different
and
species.
We're getting smarter.
Absolutely.
We definitely didn't just wake up and come from the Neanderthal. We wouldn't be anywhere near as advanced as we are now. So do we credit them, or do we say, hey, you should have interfered?
We don't know if they're trying to replicate our species or if they're trying to self-replicate theirs. And that's where we are right now. It looks to be, again, what percentage of that hybrid is us and what percentage of it is them? But the truth is, if we go back through the history of even just folklore and mythology, we have the changeling phenomenon, where your people, where they would go in, they would switch out children. Almost, parents are thinking, what the heck is this? It looks like it, but it's not, and it ain't working. But if you look at their behavioral patterns throughout history, you see that they have evolved. And what scares me is that in many cases, they've evolved according to our awareness of them. Sure, many people called them demons until they started showing up in the images of angels. Sure, we called them demons until they showed up as Jesus or Muhammad. And then now we start having abduction accounts where these entities will literally weaponize our beliefs against us, step into the roles we give them, and then run a program on us. Meanwhile, we have no idea what's really going on. And I did a show last night, and it's fascinating to me. And the book it's called Eris and Evil by Ariel Masters. He talks about the witches' sabbats, and he talks about how they would be flown away. This is in the witch era literature, that we'd be flown away to have intercourse with these demons. And some of this is sprinkled in with Montague Summers' work too. But they said that once they got to the sabbats, they thought they were having intercourse with ghosts, corpses and demons, but then a frequency would fuzz in and out, guys. And then these witches would look around and they'd realize that these aren't really corpses. Not to say that they didn't, do that in the past, or they didn't do that at all, but they're realizing that these things that are poking and prodding me, they're metallic objects. They're not real male appendages, guys. This was a program that was being ran on them to make them believe that in literally a religion, right? A belief system. And while this is all going on, they're realizing, oh my God, this is an illusion. And they were in these metallic objects were going in and taking over and, implanting stuff. And so I think that is a big issue here because, again, can we really trust some of these abduction accounts? what is really going on? Because if they could project things into our minds, what is really occurring here?
It does make you kind of feel like you're in a fishbowl, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really does. Totally. I'm with Susan Long. Whatever they are doing, I don't like it. I'm with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Christine, accessing dimensional aspects of self. For sure. It could all just be, that could be the whole thing. It's a dimensional thing. It is really hard to, to grasp. They definitely can manipulate mind over matter. They can manipulate the situation 100%. We're sort of at their mercy. So we know there's certain signs, of abductions or, pre-abduction, post-abduction. But that's, standard abductions. What happens when they're removing your essence and let's say they are putting it elsewhere? How do you know when you meet somebody and it's just not there? You often hear about like step-ins, for example.
Correct.
I always use the coma scenario. Someone who's been in a coma for an extended period of time, because you don't just lay in the body, the spirit just moves on. It's energy. Where somebody else steps in and basically they don't know who anybody is. They don't know who their wife is, their kids are, their parents. They go on to live an entirely different life. There've been reports where people say they're not right, they're meaner, they're like there's just something that's completely wrong about them. Is this the same sort of an idea?
It is the same sort of the idea, and it falls in line with Malachi Martin's version of perfect possession. And we're gonna, we can't help but go there, guys. And again, I think every researcher, every ufologist, especially if they're studying this phenomenon, needs to understand where possession originated. But with that, I mean, we've had cases of people who've literally changed their sexuality. I mean, to that degree, like literally, like left the family. They smoke now, they curse now, or and you're dealing with consciousness that is it's in a new body and it's existing. But yeah, it's perfect possession. And I think, again, I do have my own theory as to why they're creating a new species. And I do believe that it plays a role in possession, and they actually have to implement necromancy. So I believe that these are what are called little spirits. This is my humble opinion. Little spirits originally were in your Phoenician texts, and they were the consciousness that left the body. But they were witness. They had a constitution to them. They had the ability to walk through walls and solidify, come in and out of existence, right? And these little spirits did not, they had what I call the disability of being. They did not have a body, but they had their apparition. And so if we look at the modern phenomenon through the ancient lens, we see that these entities were attempting to copulate with women as far back as the late Iron Age, at least. That's a long time ago. Now, in the
just look at the Nephilim, or look at the fallen ones, really.
Exactly right. It plays out. I mean, the story itself plays out like a modern UFO abduction. Like in the Apocrypha of John, it says that these entities manifested to women in the images of their husband. When their husbands were absent, they manifested to them as their husbands and tried to coerce them into a physical encounter. Now, I myself, this is very interesting too. I've worked with women all across the world who have experienced this phenomenon, and that these entities would manifest to them according to who they've been with. Okay, and I'm going to skate around this without getting too whatever. But it wasn't just a former lover. It would be someone who did not use protection. It's very interesting. Like the entity itself had read so much into her mind. He knew when she was intimate with the person and when she was intimate without being on birth control. And then it's going to manifest as that entity to her. Then it would go in and say, okay, which one did not wear protection? Right? Because you allowed that to happen. Now I'm going to manifest to you as that person. Why? Because it's increasing the probability of insemination, of impregnation. You understand what I'm saying here? And that's the way they create this. And so in antiquity, we had them manifesting to women. And what's interesting too is before that, they would manifest to men in the image, again, of a lover, harvest a sample, go to the female, induce them, most of the time it was in a dream state, and then inseminate them. And so they've been doing this since the late Iron Age. But what I'm afraid of, again, is if researchers don't gain this research, they don't gain this literature, we're going to be left with a 21st century sample, right, of a phenomenon that's been here for millennia. But it's troubling, very troubling.
Amelia, do you want to get that one?
Yeah, I don't know what SSP means. I've seen, Susan says, I've seen a daughter in SSP. She has black hair, blue eyes, and sharp teeth. We flew together. Weird thing is, she was within 10 years of my age. What is SSP? What did I miss?
I don't know.
She also says, damn, I had that happen in Astral, look like a Pleiadian. And she also says she doesn't like blondes.
Which are Pleiadians. But yeah, a lot of people believe that the Pleiadians are from like the Lyria star system. And it's believed, if you really dig into some texts, that the Virgin Mary came from Lyria, that there are a lot of the holy people. I mean, the church adopted from so many different cultures, it doesn't mean that she started off Catholic, but they all believe that she's still a protector of children, especially even when they embody that. So that's what they believe with that whole thing. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there. That's the thing. Because
there is.
So that she came here to embody, right? Embody this place to be able to give birth to.
Anything, everything's on the table at this point. Everything's on the table, literally. And I think that's like when I sent you guys my new updated biography. If you notice, which I know you guys did, I kind of separated myself from that, religious dogmatism, because again, excuse me, everything's on the table. If these entities have the ability to pull us from ourselves, then they're playing with a full hand, and we're not all there yet. We're still trying to figure out what game we're playing. But even in mythology, like your Jewish mythology, they believe that demons came from the stolen seed of men. That Lilith, by the way, which is a little spirit, like I talked to you guys before, Lilith would go and steal it from him, and then create a hybrid species that they call demons. Same phenomenon. It's the same stuff. So, it's interesting to me, but what's really sad about this is we don't have enough data that suggests that anything is working as a combatant. Literally. There's a group of Christian researchers that just say the name of Jesus. Well, okay, if that worked every time, it's just like a doctor. If the prescription healed every time, of course we'll use it, right? We'll use it. Doesn't matter what the belief is, but it's not. I mean, we have cases where they say, okay, in the name of Jesus, and they say, we got Jesus. They pull Jesus up, and it's not the historical Jesus, right? It's, again, I keep saying it all the time, but he's a Swedish Presbyterian Jesus, right? Why? Because he's pulling her image of him out of her mind and saying, listen, believe in this. This is who we are. And again, it's just leading her one step further down the rabbit hole of just let us do what we're going to do. Everything's going to be okay. And I don't like that.
So... Oh, sorry. No, you go ahead. William.
Oh, thank you. I was going to say, I was just going to, because I'm thinking as you're saying this, why all the deception then?
Exactly.
Why not just tell us?
Oh, yeah. It's, and again, I think that there's deception going on in almost every aspect of it. Like, even if you look at the way they're evolving the soul and consciousness within the abductee, Betty Luco was set down and she was fitted into a chair where she was taught how to fly a ship. Here's the interesting part, but she's never flown a ship yet. Right? So I think that, again, they're not educating people. There we go. Yeah, right.
I don't know.
That's another show.
It's not the first time I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's here's the question though: are they educating muscle memory, or are they educating the soul? Right.
Yeah. No, that's
true. And preparing to catch her when she dies or something, and then use that. So it's a very troubling aspect. But again, guys, we're being invaded by the impossible. And again, they're not giving us the same stories. They're from everywhere at once. And they're here for every other reason at once. There's nothing that is a thematic element, a common thematic element that would string this entire phenomenon together. And that's not according to me. That's according to them. What are we doing? Oh, we're the watchers. And then somebody else, oh, we're this. Meanwhile, they're the same, like they have the same manifestations, the same, everything is the same, but they just tell people stuff that, and a lot of times, it's a complete lie. It's a fabrication. They'll give you a prophecy, and it never happens. And then you're thinking in your mind, how is it that you know when people are going to die? But you give me false prophecies. It's weird.
Here's a theory then. We're taught when we die that we should always go to the light. Go to the light. They make it beautiful. They make it enticing. You know, is that like a cycle where is it ET? Perhaps that, like some people see you recycle into reincarnation. Some people believe, no, we're in a matrix. They just keep you recycling back so you're a slave forever. This is another theory. Are they waiting there to sort of snag you as you come out? Or, I'm just curiosity as to your perspective on that.
Okay, this is going to be kind of controversial, and I hate to.
This whole thing's controversial.
Well, I know, right?
Because
the show's about it.
In that light are our past loved ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, is this a mimic or is this real?
Yeah.
We have many cases in abductions where people have seen loved ones. And it's a common thematic element through the phenomenon. However, okay, watch this. Ray Fowler was the first researcher to look into the soul trap too. He's the first researcher that said that these abductions mirror near-death experiences, and it wasn't that they mirror each other in the fact that once you have a near-death experience, you get to this destination, and what you experience in it is like the abduction. No, the technology, at least that we're experiencing at the moment of death, or whatever, it feels the same. And many abductees describe it as an intelligent electricity that sucks the soul out of the body. And you see a light, and that's what Ray Fowler's work was all about. But Steve Mera made a very valid point. For the researchers out there, Steve Mera is basically a god in the field. He's been doing it forever. And he made a very valid point that I stand behind. He said, if we cannot trust the validity of abductions, can we trust the validity of near-death experiences? Because if these are the same entities, if you look at it, near-death experiences, it's not the modus operandi, not the way they take us from ourselves, but the experience itself is inconclusive. We have people that said they were butterflies, and then other people say they were this, and then some people met Muhammad, and it's all according to your religion. So again, if they have the ability to deceive us in the abduction accounts, then is it possible that the NDE experience is another form of the abduction, but it's another form of them deceiving us in the sense that we're doing something with your soul while you're out of your body? And Mera pointed that out, but that's another aspect of the research that's worth considering.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch. For all the Christians listening.
That's a kick in the gut. It's a kick in the gut, right?
Yeah, for all the Christians listening. Just saying.
Well, it's the same theories. You have some people who believe solely in extraterrestrials, and they don't believe in angels and demons at all. And you have those that believe only in angels and demons and not in extraterrestrials. Are they one of the same? Is it just a difference of species, or are they separate?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, our ancestors, when they interpreted this phenomenon, they interpreted it as demonic or angelic. And it was rather a very simplistic system. If it was a good angel, it was a good angel because it gave me a good message. If it was a bad angel, that's a demon, it's because it gave me a bad one. And so, you had your different experiencers, different experiences they were classified either demonic or angelic. But the real issue here, guys, is that, again, they're playing by different rules because they're playing a different game. And the truth is, they're not really educating us on the game. We get bits and pieces, and we're left with memories sometimes that aren't even our own. And we have to walk through the mud and the darkness and grope in the darkness, wondering exactly what's going on. We do know for sure that, at least according to my research, that they're not using religious amulets like we do. They're just not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys, I don't know if I told you about this, the remote viewer that I was working with his son, and he was remote viewing and doing sessions with these guides. And one day he encountered these entities in his sessions, and they weren't his guides. They looked like it. And they threw him back into his body. And when he got back into his body, they took Polaroid pictures of these entities carving different religious amulets into his chest. One was there were Egyptian hieroglyphics. The other one was a Jewish Star of David. The other one was the cross. So they're not using these religious amulets like we are. They're using these religious amulets like a mage would, like a Brahmalin or like a Crowley or somebody who uses them as like a mathematical equation. This plus this equals this. And they're using it against us.
So we're missing something.
We're missing a major piece of the puzzle here. Yeah. Because Catholicism's not the answer here, right?
They borrowed from every culture throughout the ages during their creation. So what is theirs exactly? Everything seems to be borrowed.
Yep. And we don't know if that our past experiences with these entities are the ones that birthed these amulets. Did we inherit these things from them? But what is most certain, here's something that's very interesting that I've been researching too. It's a thought that I'm going to hypothesize here. Are we dealing with magicians? Are we dealing with magi here? Because what they're doing would be called magic. Like Steve Mera, when he did a lecture, and he's talking about the British Parliament, how they told him it was WFM, weird blank magic, because they have the ability to walk through a wall and then solidify themselves. They could be invisible. They can read your thoughts. And then when you get into the magical text, it's like, okay, we have had magicians in history that have mastered certain aspects of that. They could read your thoughts. They could tell you your life. They have these different abilities. And then you start stepping into what's called the Dracopothic, the apothecary aspect of what they would take and the things that these magicians would harvest from people and use to help their powers. It's the same stuff they're peeling from us.
It is interesting. I mean, when you go back into ancient cultures, they seem to live really well among the visitors from the stars. They were educated. Look at the Hopi. That's just one example. The Dogon. I mean, they were educated. They emulated their gods. They built monuments to their gods. If magic and everything else existed, there's a theory that it would be maybe with specific species that are intermingling with our world governments, because now we're going to go a little bit more far out into a little bit of a matrix thing, but
so good.
It's believed that there is the higher ups, the shadow government, the elite, let's say, who have been taught this magic and this occult to be able to, I guess, ensnare, spiderweb the world, whatever it is they want to call it. So maybe you're right on that. Maybe it's just something else that's been kept from humanity, but only select few have been allowed to learn it.
It's a good point. It's a good point, sister. So check this out. Yeah,
just saying, right. While we're bouncing ideas around,
Yeah,
there's one for you.
Hey,
I'll run the magic thing.
That falls in line because there's a sanctity that is starting to emerge in this phenomenon. It's very unique. I first noticed this with Chris Bledsoe. Chris Bledsoe is an experiencer, and he's talking about how he met the white lady and how he was basically speechless in her presence, and he would always choke up while talking about it, he would choke up. But there's also a big player in the field by the name of Diana Walsh-Pasuka. She wrote a book called American Cosmic. During a lecture of hers, she's a religious scholar, but during a lecture of hers one day, a very well-dressed, good-looking man walked in the back and said, "When you're done with the lecture, I'd like to talk to you, take you out to dinner, and explain to you who I am." He's a multi-millionaire. He owns like a ton of patents, and he said, "I'm part of what's called the Invisible College." And so this is that kind of shadow government in the sense of there's gatekeepers to these entities, right? It's not just, okay, I'm plucking you out and then we're going to have a talk. No, there's some people that have the ability to interact with them. and that know things it's funny because he goes by the name of I forget his name. Anyways, it's out of the Fight Club. It's a pseudonym. It's a fake name. Anyways, he said that one day he was asleep and he had like some kind of dream, and they began to download technology into his mind. And then he created patents, and from those patents he became wealthy. And so he calls Diana Walsh Pasuka and says, "Hey, listen, I want to introduce you to the Invisible College. What are you doing tomorrow? I'll have a plane there." And this is real stuff. Like, this is not X-Files, okay? This is real stuff. I'll have a plane at your nearest airport, you know, and you're not going to be able to look out the windows. We're not going to tell you where we're taking you. It's going to be at nighttime anyway. And they took her and they got her off the plane, and she met the Invisible College. This exists. And what's interesting about it is people that think, okay, that we're looking for disclosure from the government. I mean, I think these other people know a lot more about this phenomenon. The pencil pusher, the guy that's trying to get $50,000 to get, stuff pusher. But again, it goes to your point that there exists an invisible college out there, people. And that's what it is. Tyler Durden from Fight Club. And this Tyler Durden guy takes Diana Walsh Pasuka out to the Skinwalker Ranch. And this gets to the sanctity aspect of it. He builds an altar. What? Right? He builds an altar,
I like that.
And he starts praying to them. And then she's starting to call the Skinwalker Ranch the sacred space, And so again, what it seems like there is an aspect of a holiness here, right? Of people who would have never otherwise been religious are now stepping into this role of being religious, because they either don't want to offend the phenomenon, or they believe that there's an aspect of the phenomenon that is holy. Now, if we're going, what that means, guys, is that's stepping all over the toes of theology. It takes the argument out of the hands of just the nuts and bolts crowd, and now it's saying, okay, why are we thinking they're holy? Why are they receiving these kind of gifts of oblations and praise? Because that's religion. And if the whole conversation is going to shift towards religion, well, hello, guys. We have all the data, right, from the literature and the history. So it's getting interesting out there. Anyways, I don't want to ramble.
No, it's okay.
Hours.
That opens the doors to so many things, because then you right. wonder, well, where does stigmata come from? Well, why do we have saints? Why do we, that's a lot of questions. Oh my gosh.
The thing is with, emulation, again, where does religion come into with, I just want to comment on what you were just talking about. Yeah. A lot of these gods that were allegedly, extraterrestrials, because I mean, just go look at the Mayan temples. Go look at all of these places. The reptilians, for example, the Anunnaki. There is symbolism all over the world, and some of them demanded to be revered as gods. Now, if you get even further down the rabbit hole, where you have, let's say, the shadow government and the elite who are aware of how to do all of this occult magic, let's say, allegedly, they are given, I guess they're like a watcher type of being that just sort of shadows them, follows them around, and they pretty much get everything they want.
Yes.
But if you listen, if you back out.
Oh God, yeah. There's an abduction
it's all out there,
account
people. You can find it. Right.
There's an abduction account in Beyond UFOs, a book that I own, where a guy was in a motorcycle wreck. Right. And he talks about feeling that intelligent electricity sucks his soul out of his body. And he meets these entities, and they say, listen, your doctors do not have the ability to put your body back together again. We do. If you want to live, you're going to be our prophet. And when you get back there, you're going to do everything we want you to do and say everything we want you to say. So it's not just a lot of these experiences are, it's not just limited to, okay, I'm going to abduct you and I'm going to inseminate you and I'm going to create this hybrid. No, they are trying to self-replicate not just their bodies and everything, but it's almost as if they're trying to inseminate the world with their beliefs. This is what we're going to do. This is, and all this stuff. And yet, and I was on a show a while ago and I said, they're making profits out of people.
Is it evolution in a way? Like, are they good messages or, I mean, I can see how if the good species, the benevolent ones, I could see them, coming out and trying to find ways to say, hey, look, we're here. We're not all bad. We want to, help you to evolve. Things can be really good. It's not all gloom and doom. We're not all evil. We're not here to cause a war or take over the planet. And I guess maybe, I don't know, is it a way of improvising? Like, the body's gone now, we can fix you, but spread our message. Other people will do, or other people are doing it through, let's say, radio, television. Subliminally, the powers that be do it. Maybe this is ET's way of doing it. Maybe it's not all like the more malevolent ones saying, oh no, you're going to do what we tell you to do, and we're taking over the world. Like Pinky and the Brain style, I don't know. It's
if they wanted to take over the world, guys, they would just implant consciousness in the people. That's all they would have to do. I mean, if they have the ability to take a soul, I mean, you're talking. Okay, we would have 1,000 planes. They just do. So if they can.
Why the game?
I don't know. I mean, this gets very interesting too. Again, they're playing a different game here. It's not. Like, okay, let's get back to specifics here. So let's look at some of the reasons they're abducting people. Okay, we're going to help you evolve. How? Teach me.
Right.
What are
but they don't let you remember. So that just adds to the game.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Okay. And so, and that's why I'm leaning towards some of these species. At least one is kind of just playing their own game at their own pace and just manipulating humanity as a species. But, like, okay, how do I evolve? Like we have better directions on the back of a pill can on how to take a pill than we do. Like, there's things that we know that we have access to that's easier to understand. Simple stuff. What they're trying to tell us is, okay, we're taking you for reasons and we're helping you evolve. But how are you doing that? Well, well, how do I evolve? Well, here's how you evolve. You know what I mean? And it's smoke and mirrors. And so you're right. A lot of times it's not like applicable stuff. So, it's troubling to me because what's the truth here? We do know for a fact that they have knowledge of the soul. They told Betty Luca that her children were going to die. She called, She called Ray Fowler crying and said, hey, listen, I know something's going to happen. And, bam, it occurs. But so if they have knowledge of that, then why in the heck are they giving us false prophecies? It's inconsistent. I mean, I've met people that have more prophetic gifting than that. And it's not just limited to some abductions. There's a litany of them where these entities will give you specific dates of things occurring, like 2 of them, and then the rest of the 90% just made no sense at all, never occurred. And so it's literally like, if you have this ability to see that far in the darkness and translate the silence, how do you screw up that bad unless you're playing a different game with me that I'm ignorant of? You understand? And so it's troubling because, if they know what death is, they know who's going to die, when they're going to die. If they have people on their ships of people that have died, then we have a significant threat to not just our species' physicality, but that inner potential of us that we're ignorant of so far. It's dangerous.
Amelia, yeah, no.
I noticed that. Hi, Dave. He writes, because they can't do what they want to. If you knew what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So true enough.
I'm still coming to the why, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. The self-replication aspect of it is a huge part, I believe. Like if you go into biblical antiquity, in Genesis 6, they were trying to create a species that looked like their apparitions. This gets into possession. So they what they were doing is that once they groomed these women into intercourse, they would stare into their eyes. Another common thematic element in abduction accounts. And then they would look in their eyes, and at the moment of insemination of some other sample they stole from a man, and they would reverse their apparition while staring into the eyes. Now, again, there's 2 things going on here. Number one, located right behind the eyes is a part of the brain called the medial-frontal orbital cortex. It's the part of our brain that tells the body what's actually happening and what's not. This is damning if we think about the implications. It's the part of our brain that tells us we're watching a movie. Don't you get afraid of that guy with the gun. It's just a movie, Nate. It's that part of our brain that they hack into. In addition to that, they had an ancient obstetric tradition that whatever man the woman was focused upon at the moment of its insemination, she would birth the material image of through her womb as a child. So what do? We have them manifesting as the husband until they got the woman where they want, and then reversing their apparitions to what they really look like so they could have a material image of their apparition. This is making sense. Mm-hmm. That's what Genesis 6 was about. And there is evidence that after they created the child, they actually stepped into its skin and possessed it. They're called the Rephaim. Yes, in Genesis, they're the Rephaim. And most scholars have difficulty with this because Rephaim has two definitions. One, it means deceased ghost. That's the apparition we're seeing, right? And then it also means giant. So what many people have to realize is the giant was the physical material image they stepped into. The other ghost was the consciousness that had possessed it. So that gives us some insight to at least what they were doing 3,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, was using our women, our men, our species to self-replicate in this whole idea, again, of placing consciousness and images. Like we just talked about earlier, Dr. Collerton had a case just like that. Mm-hmm. It had an image. Here's the consciousness of the baby. We're going to put it in there. So whatever we're dealing with here, we're dealing with somebody who knows the intricate aspects of necromancy, the ins and outs of plucking the soul out of the body. And it's just horrific. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or Stephen King or something.
No, it's been the conversation the past few months.
Yeah, it's actually really, there's a lot of stuff pertaining to that's floating around. There's a belief that, there'll be soul harvesting, basically why there's such a push for artificial intelligence. Some people, there is that belief, believe it or not, everybody, there is that belief that, I don't know if they figured that it would have been ET doing it, or would it be military doing it, or government doing it, putting essence in artificial intelligence. Because let's face it, there's no more healthcare, no more wages. You don't have to do anything. It's just sheer labor.
Correct.
And just again, another theory.
I'm terrified of that, guys, honestly, because we're all researchers.
You're trapped, right?
We think about it. Yeah. I mean,
there's no way out after that.
Trapped, exactly. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about those implications, I mean, like I had an incubus case where the entity was actually calling the husband, and the husband told me this, and I promise this is going to be a good point. Okay, I'm not just raving.
No, go
the
ahead.
Husband, I go to do an investigation with him, and the husband's freaking out. I said, what's going on? I can clearly see her shaking. He said, man, last night I was fixing dinner. My phone is on the dinner table, and I'm cooking and everything. I get a call from a phone number that doesn't exist, an unknown number. He's like, it just rings. Something slides my Apple iPhone open, answers the phone call, puts it on speaker, and a man's voice says, come over here and talk to me. Now, the danger of having this AI and artificial intelligence is if they can do that with a cell phone, what are they going to do with a robot? What are they going to do, right? What are they going to do when they have something that's easily manipulated? Because if that's
with
very
imaginable strength.
Exactly right.
Even with self-driving cars, I don't see why people are so excited about that. I mean, now I'm not going to say what. Well, actually, I am. Tesla. I'm going to say it because it's Elon Musk. It's got nothing to do with Nikola Tesla. So I'm just going to say it. It has nothing to do with him. I say that twice. You create this self-driving car that now 350,000 have been recalled in North America because they're creating accidents.
Yeah, we have one in New York.
And sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, you should see the video, guys. I'll probably send it to you after the show. These people are sitting at eating dinner, and you're right, though. The Tesla, 108 miles an hour. He couldn't do anything about it.
No. And it also has it set up that you can play video games on the screen while the car's driving for you. So where does accountability come in here? And why are we doing this? And why are we good with this?
Why are we allowing any of this?
That's what I'm saying. Why are we good with this? Why are we allowing this? This is ridiculous. Because I didn't do that.
You have a lot of this, right? All the time.
That's me. That's me a lot, especially at night.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you can't even sit across from somebody most of the time without. I'm just as guilty. My messages never stop, so I'm always trying to keep up. Yeah. But you think about it, and it's going beyond the phone and the computer.
You can play Minecraft while you're driving. You're not driving. So where does accountability come in if there's an accident? Where is the accountability?
Right.
What happens?
Trish,
there's going to be a lot of
permission through religion. Yeah,
belief plays a large role in this. It does. I mean, again, like when, I mean, okay, let's look at this. If they're stepping into roles we're giving them, this gets very interesting. Like that one, an individual I was working with in India. She's like, she goes, they've manifested to me in the images of 8 men. And I had to ask her some deep questions, like, okay, this sounds like an incubus. He's trying to groom you. What's going on? And she's like, I have had 8 partners in my life, and it's going through all of them. It's almost like working, what's it called, a safe, working, just whatever it is, a lock, trying to get in there and trying to fix it to where. So what's interesting about this is, again, belief plays a role in this. In other words, like when they appear to the individual in the image, they're trying to convince that person that this is the real person. I am the image, right? The image is me. And based upon your previous behavior with this individual that I'm appearing as, I'm going to step into that role and be that person to you that you allowed him to be before. And so what if I don't believe you're that person? Then everything falls apart. It's very unique. It's like Dr. Carla Turner had an abductee named Ted Rice. Ted Rice he was abducted with his grandmother. And she's in this ship, and this hybrid being tries to, groom her into intercourse. She says, no, I'm not doing that. So she said, I've only been with one man. He's my husband. He's been dead for 11 years. Now, again, they weaponized her images, weaponized her beliefs and thoughts against her. From the shadows emerges her husband. Now, again, what are they doing? Allow me to play the role, right? It's role playing. Is this really my husband? And so, and if it was, this is supposed to be a dead man. So is that necrophilia? Were they trying to, I mean, these open many doors here. Are they trying to encourage
unless she's
her?
Thinking that this is maybe afterlife, that they're
correct.
They brought him through the afterlife. So it's not really for her. Maybe she's having an incarnate moment with her loved one.
It's a very good point. Very good point. But it just goes to show you, like, again, God, I mean, we're dealing with a species. Yeah, they can. And so we're getting into the idea of role playing. Do you want me to be Jesus to you? Okay. Do you want me to be Muhammad? Okay. Matter of fact, I'll even be your dear Aunt Edna. And then what's really going on behind the scenes, because again, we can't look at this what's called cognitive interface as the truth. And I think that's a very dangerous aspect of it. But I mean, anytime you have an entity that knows whether the person you were with wore protection or not, and then it manifests as that person and not the other, holy smokes, guys, down to the very detail, because it's I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We can't be naive and believe that the government has nothing to do with this, right?
It's a very good point. Well, your MyLab counts. Your MyLab. Yeah.
Because how often are chips linked back to the government and not ET? So why we don't really know what's going on. This is disturbing. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Well, we know that military does have, let's face it, they've reverse engineered all kinds of things. A lot of people believe the militaries throughout the world especially in the US, do their own abductions. They have their own crafts. If you want to get really far out, you can get into the space fleet and dark fleet, and there's a whole other freaking world going on above there, up in space. So that being the case, how do we know who's really doing it?
You're right. It's interesting because
It's
almost as if, oh yeah, it's not just muddy water. There's blood in the water here. I mean, if you look at it through a certain lens here, it's almost as if you have, whatever we want to call them, ET, little spirits, ghosts, whatever, just whatever, everything's on the table at this point, that are using individuals as time capsules, giving them information, waiting for 50 years, and then allowing them to remember it. Wait a minute. Allowing them to remember it. And then on the other end, we have, I know, right? On the other end, we have the government who is following abductees, knowing, okay, yeah, you experienced this. How do you know that? How do you know, right?
They don't let you remember anything either. They should know. They don't let us remember anything. What do you want with us?
Right.
We can't remember.
Why do some people remember? Some do. Some, I mean, these abductees, these contactees, they have these stories. They're telling you. They have all this evidence. And then the rest of us or whomever does not remember why. Is there a whole... I don't know. Is there a method to that, to that madness? Like why some do and some are completely wiped out? Why?
I think that sometimes
is it another trauma. Race interfering with the other race and their research? Well, I mean, it could be anything now.
You're right. And what's really weird about that is it's okay. So if we are time capsules for certain memories and certain messages, and we'll get onto that in a second, but so we have cases of my lab, military abductions, where somehow they know this person was abducted, in which we don't know how that happens, right? Because if you can't even give us any kind of disclosure, and when these people are abducted, what? But they'll interrogate them, they'll hypnotize them, they'll give them drugs, and what they're trying to do is reach into their subconscious and pull out the memories.
But do what with it?
I don't know. What are they telling you? What are they saying? Now, I will tell you this much. According to my research, especially in not just near-death experiences, reincarnation, and people with past lives, there seems to be two different kinds of memories here. With Eben Alexander and Ian Stevenson's work dealing with children who said they have past lives, they have death wounds and everything. Their soul has a memory that the body that they're in doesn't. And so you're dealing with two different kinds of, like I said, just memory and awareness. And so I think a lot of times that you'll have people like with Betty Luca, they tell you, you will not remember this. And so the question is, why are you telling me? Well, I think that there is an evolutionary law, at least right now, that says, okay, that when we're educating your soul, that goes back into your body. There's two yous, right? There's two memories. And so it's almost like you're limited to this 4-dimensional world. And yet that soulish aspect of you, the one that we're talking to, will remember this. And what's interesting, it's just like in Stevenson's work where you have children, like he had one case where a Japanese kid, an Indian kid was with his family in Japan, and he starts hearing Japanese speak the language. And so he runs into a cafe, walks up to a man and starts speaking fluent Japanese. Why?
So it triggers something.
Correct. His body did not remember it. I'm getting passionate, man. Now I'm losing my voice, but his body didn't remember it, but his subconscious soul did. And now you have culture that's trapped, two different cultures trapped in one body. And I think that's why a lot of times you do have people that remember, they get triggered, they'll have different things occur. But a lot of times you'll have people that are abducted and they don't know anything until they have traumatic symptoms and PTSD. Dr. Carla Turner's husband had that happen to him, where he'd get angry and violent and mean, and then what's going on? I need to go get checked out and all this stuff. I'm having massive migraines, and okay, what happened to you? You went through something. So I think that does play a role in it too. But I think that the aspect of two memories is kind of interesting. I got to work more on that theory.
No,
I can't wait.
Well, so why wait 50 years and then allow you to have the memory? I've heard this theory before, What is he? I mean, time might be very irrelevant to them. That's the only thing I can think of. Or is it that maybe they feel that that person is evolved enough that maybe they can handle it? Maybe it's just too much information all at once. It would crack your brain.
Yep.
Maybe.
You know, it could be that they're orchestrating this entire thing. And I also have a theory where I think that they have created different religions so that they can return to us the images of the players in them, you know, as someone you could trust. So in other words, I'll create a fake religion and then I will, you know, give this and they can do this anytime they want to, I think, where they have this religious figure that teaches somebody this massive truth, creates this religion that lives for 1,000 years. Next thing you know, they can come back in that image and now you're trusting it just like you trusted that religious figure. And maybe that was the whole purpose of putting the religious figure here, creating that religion, you know, and then hiding behind the image.
No, you are our guest. Dave Petrella says there's a big timeline that needs to be followed, pre-written. Everything needs to happen at exactly the right time or the system collapses.
It's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, these entities are very, they're surgical, they're punctual, they're sterile. We have cases where it's like they share the same consciousness, where you have 6 or 7 of them in the line, and they'll all look up at the same time. They'll do everything at the same time. But I want to also touch on this aspect of it too, because I think this is really, really cool. So the idea of consciousness merging with metal, like I said, originated in antiquity, Mesopotamia, through burial rites, funerary rites, and necromancy. But it was a way to keep the entity alive. It's a way to remain existing in a certain dimension. And so they began to merge metal with consciousness. Do you know that there is a large percentage of abductees that are stepping onto ships and are saying the ship itself, though it's metallic, is alive?
Correct. It melds with the driver.
Consciousness here.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Same technology, guys. Same technology here. And so, if they have the ability to do that, it all points to if they would have the ability to do that, you would realize that they understand the soul and all that stuff. And it falls right back into, okay, these guys are some pretty bad dudes, you know,
right?
Whoever they are.
Right. Easy. I'm just going to jump in and do a station ID. You are right now, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and myself, Amelia Pisano, and our returning guest and dear friend, Nathaniel Gillis, is here with us tonight. And we are talking all things ET and nothing positive. I'm just saying.
Come on now, sure there are.
There's ET intelligence, deceptions, and soul hunters, essences, and AI. This is really going to give me nightmares tonight, but it's worth listening to. If you're just joining us now, just hit pause and come back when our archive is up on our page, The Outer Realm, on Facebook. We are airing live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 FM radio, streaming right now on UFO Paranormal Radio and International Public Radio. We are so blessed and honored to have award-winning Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, composer of our intro and outro, as he gifted us with the intro and the outro, and that's his voice that you're hearing right there. So if you're interested in more about Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, and his music, you can find him on Amazon, Bandcamp. You can find him also on Facebook and Instagram. So check him out. Also, from the beginning, we'd like to give a huge thanks to the people of Folgers Coffee. Good to the last drop. You've been with us from the beginning and hopefully to the end. No one loves you more than we do. Without you, we wouldn't be here. Thank you, Folgers.
Exactly. Okay, so back to Nathaniel.
Yes, more nightmares, Nathaniel. I hope you're up at night because I'm going to be messaging you. Just saying.
Good. I'm fine with that. I have insomnia myself.
So do I.
Especially now.
Aliens.
Right?
Just saying. Aliens.
No.
Yeah. Right. I think, okay. So like what really bugs me though is, I think this is another reason why I'm kind of separating myself from the religious dogmas. A lot of, they're all so exclusive. They believe, like you said, it's either aliens or demons and all this stuff. And they're so adamant about it. And I'm saying, okay, well, everything's on the table. But one thing is for sure, our ancestors did interpret some of these entities as demons. But I mean, let's look at Father Sinistrari's work. So Sinistrari was a Franciscan priest, and he was working with women who were going into dream states and meeting some of these creatures. And he would get there within an hour of what we would call an abduction account, and he would go and find biological samples, wink, wink, left by the entities on the women in the bed, right? And so what happened was these entities were trying to inseminate them by inducing them into a dream state. Now, again, where are they getting this from? Where are they getting the male samples from? Well, if you go throughout history, we have the succubus would actually employ witches that would go, necromancers, go find someone who's recently deceased. And Sinistrari calls them milking the carcasses of the dead, and then taking that and then using that to inseminate the woman. So again, death plays a huge role in this to them, a massive role.
I was going to completely go somewhere with that.
Really? Oh, crap.
I'm not often left speechless, but I'm like, what?
I know.
Did you just say? It's like, wow.
I can't even focus on a thought right now. My head's everywhere.
I was like, what did you just say?
They were that.
Yeah, I completely.
That's crazy.
I can completely see that. If you think back to the book of Enoch, Enoch was your first abductee, but he was also, it states right in the book of Enoch that he would, I hate to say it and be disrespectful, he was kind of a stud, like they actually used his
he was fertile.
He was fertile, and he fertilized them. Thank you, Amelia. And he fertilized a lot to assist these extraterrestrial beings until he got tired and basically said, I think I'm done. And then Enoch went, thank you, Enoch. Here you go to open the gates of paradise. If it already wasn't, I don't know. But
was Enoch human?
Enoch was at one
time. Are we sure?
Okay, now you got me wondering. Was
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it all out now. I'm just trying to figure out who I am. What am I?
I think we're all in that same boat. The mythology says that he turned into a Metatron, an angel, which is very interesting because, all of this I think is rooted in Mesopotamian culture, where they would believe that this is interesting too. That these little spirits, that if you had a bad death, traumatic death, or if you died and you weren't ready, that you had the potential to mutate into a demon, a Lilith demon, and then haunt people. Yeah. And again, Lil, right? That's from the Phoenician text. So a Lilith was actually a species, not just one individual. I mean, God, guys, this is the UFO abduction phenomenon. So let's see here. Yeah. So they would take their samples from men and try to inseminate the women with them. I'm trying to figure out where I was going with that. But yeah, it's all the same stuff.
I don't know, because I couldn't really speak much. Took me a minute. I couldn't even take a guess at where you were going with that afterwards.
So that's really what they were doing. But this whole insemination thing, that's what I was going to tell you. So not only are they playing a different game, they're also playing by different rules, and the symbols that they're employing we're ignorant of. Like Sinistrari, like I said, he would go in there within an hour of the abduction. See how fast I'm talking now, dude? I've got it. I've got the thought. Finally. So
are you sure it's you speaking though?
Yeah, right.
I'm grooving.
Yeah, man. So, gosh, here we go. No, I'm just kidding. So he would go in there within an hour of the abduction occurring, and he would collect semen samples. Sorry, you can edit that out. Samples. Apologize, guys. A sample. And sometimes they were black, yellow, dark green. And that's why him and Maggie Summers, they both agreed that some of these samples were being taken from corpses that were being reanimated. And so, if again, this is not just nuts and bolts. It's literally a death and life converging into something Nephilim-like, Rephaim-like, where death is present with life at the same time. It's strange.
So they're doing it because, death and life merging. Because, I mean, realistically, they have their pick of, if they're doing this, they're not just doing this here on Earth. They'd be doing it everywhere. They could be getting samples literally from all over the darn galaxy or galaxies. Why go to a corpse?
Correct. It's necromancy. And
because we know the science of it. Well, we know the science of it, that because I'm going to say the sperm sits outside of the body, that within so many hours of death, you can still harvest it, because people have done that whose husbands have passed at a young age, and they've done that to have a child. So it's obviously the idea comes from somewhere. Just saying.
Then at least
exactly right.
It's going.
And how do we, back to Metatron, sorry, but how do we know that Metatron wasn't Metatron, then Enoch, then Metatron?
I don't, okay, this is going to be really bad. I love the Book of Enoch, and I think that a lot of people believed that at that time. But it's so ambiguous. Metatron, that's Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't speak Greek.
It was left out for a reason. Well, no, but I mean, it was translated. Right, many times. But that's Old Testament too. So,
right. That's supposed to be Hebrew, if not Aramaic, mostly Hebrew, right? So, it doesn't. I don't really. I like the Book of Enoch, and I have a lot of people that are, I wouldn't say detractors of my research, but they hold more to the Book of Enoch, and they have it expanded to other literature. But
because it was futuristic.
Right.
It gave you insight. Like, he was probably your first abductee. I mean, there's abduction stories throughout the whole Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. I mean, it's all in there.
You're right. And that leads me to another thing that's really cool too, is like the Ezekiel's wheel. I know everybody touches on that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But in that passage, it says that the soul of the creature was in the ship. Its soul, and wherever the soul went, the ship went with it. What are we talking about here, man? That's so cool. That's where it was. So yeah, all right. So this Lilith concept. So they believe that when you died, you could turn into a demon, or you could turn into an Elohim, a god. Your soul would evolve or would mutate according to how you died. And so there is a movement, especially within Judaism, that believes that some of these entities are disincarnate souls that have mutated, that are at least trying to live again in the body, or somehow kind of manipulate our species for their good. But, I mean, my God, okay, look at Sinistrari. Like I said, he goes in there within an hour of the abduction happening. He's collecting samples everywhere. He's coercing with his fellow researcher. He's wondering, scratching his head, what's going on here? The woman herself is freaking out because she thought it was a dream, and it wasn't. It was an actual entity that was trying to do something to her. Now, this whole possession idea plays a role in pregnancy. Now, this will make your skin crawl.
Because the rest of this hasn't?
Yeah.
So remember how I told you that these entities evolve, they mutate? They're not just, they have a timeline, but they kind of bloom into their own thing. In the 16th century, we had a movement within Safdi in Israel. It's a province in Israel where women were encountering the incubus phenomenon. They were encountering the abduction phenomenon, but it went deeper. So you're talking about someone who is sleeping, and this weird, funky sleep shows up, and it's dreamlike, but it's surreal. It's a strange phenomenon. And they meet this entity that looks like a former lover or their husband, and it sexually assaults them. Now, the woman wakes up the next day, goes to the rabbi because she's possessed with the entity that assaulted her. What? We have one woman who was called the widow of Damona, who shows up to the rabbi, and she's pregnant. Hello. missing fetus syndrome, pregnant with this entity that is speaking out of her. It has lodged itself in her womb in the fetal position, which leads me and led them especially to ask the following question. Was she pregnant with the entity, or was she possessed by him? Or if possession is a form of pregnancy to them, well, I would say it is. And I go all the way back to Genesis 6. They possessed what the woman was pregnant with.
Right.
Yeah, pregnant just means with it. Yeah.
Correct. And so it's a terrifying aspect. And even Sinistrari, he had cases like that where later on in life, the woman had passed away. They're doing an autopsy and they peel back her eyelids and they've carved their symbols underneath her eyelids. And I mean, this is ancient stuff, but I believe it plays a role, especially in the modern trauma.
Right. Archangel. Yeah, that's right, Tamara. Here, I'll bring it up for everybody to see it.
Yeah. Tamara Engel says Metatron is a twin angel. His twin brother is the Archangel Sandalphon. I can never say his name right.
Yeah.
Sandalphon. Yeah.
Sandalphon. Yeah.
Everything's on the table, guys.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Nightmares, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Got a story for you guys.
Okay.
About a year ago, I did a lecture on the incubus, and the guy that hosted the lecture is from Colombia, and he was like, it was just like this, a forum like this. There was multiple people on the show, whatever. And I didn't realize it, but these people were abductees, specifically one man. And I could see that all throughout this lecture, he's getting worked up, like he's getting emotional and all this. And at the very end, he said, he's like, I want to tell you my story. I said, okay, He said, me and my wife are both experiencers. We were experiencers before we even met each other. And he said, we've both been abducted together before. He said about 2 years ago, he said, we're both sleeping in our bed at nighttime. And he said, I feel something moving underneath the covers. Now, Amelia, you're going to freak out about this one.
I'm already freaked out.
Okay. This freaked me out, man, because I'm like, what? And he said, at first I thought it was my wife. And he said, but he said, I kind of, ignored it. And he said, but then I felt something hit my leg, start moving up my body. And he said, so I opened my eyes were adjusted to darkness, and I see this form where the covers are blanketing it, but you could see it's sitting in my bed. And he said, so I removed the covers, and he said, and it is a 5 or 6 year old girl in my bed. He said, Nathaniel, he said, I physically picked her up to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I picked her up. She was real. He said, but she had pale complexion, and she's just sitting there, and she looks at me and she says, I'm dead.
Well, it's like an apparition manifesting itself into physical form. Right. People sometimes can touch them.
Yep. And he said, what? She says, I'm dead. She said, my dad killed me. She said, that's my little brother. And she pointed the corner room. This is creepier than like Conjuring or anything. It's weird. Not just creepy, weird, but with strange. Kids,
it's unnatural.
Creepier than black-eyed children. Yeah.
Right. And she said that my dad killed us. She said, but my brother doesn't know he's dead yet. And so he said he looks at the corner of the room, and in the shadows, there's this small form, not that, but small form, just looking at them. And he said, the reason I bring this up, he says, is the eerie feeling that I got reminded me only of one experience. And he said it was the entities that abducted me one time. He said the presence that filled that room of death and consciousness. He said, have you ever heard of anything like that? I said, I hope not. And I hope to never again, But that I think that I had to tell you guys that because that blew my mind. I needed to have a drink after that. I was like, no way.
It's wild for sure. I mean, when you have these abductees, contactees, experiencers, do they ever give you descriptions of these entities who abduct them? Or
Well, they give descriptions, and yet these entities can change.
Right.
And there's, and I'm still working on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's because you get the typical like the Greys or the reptilians or the, which do they shapeshift or do they give you the illusion of what they want, how they want you to see them?
That's what I lean towards.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's important to at least add the paranormal field to the field, to the study of ufology, because in the paranormal field, we're used to that.
Yeah,
going
that's
into
definitely
a house.
our side of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of these ufologists aren't, so they just take things and go with it. It's like, well, time out. That may not necessarily be true. And especially if they're stepping into our memories, right? If they're weaponizing them.
I think it's different for ufologists who have always been ufologists than it is for those of us in the paranormal, because in the paranormal, you eventually step into ufology and the research of not just UAPs and UFOs, but, different alien species. And because for me, into many cases, at least half the cases that I've done, I hate to say case, but the people I've worked with over almost 2 decades, is the fact that at least 50% of those have crossed into having abductions or sightings of extraterrestrials. So it's only a matter of time before we get pulled into that. Unlike the ufologists who don't always step into the paranormal.
No, I think we're more open-minded than they are. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just stating, we've interviewed a lot of people. Yeah, I feel that the paranormal field is more open-minded because there's so much that we see we can't understand or explain, where ufologists still tends to fall back on science.
Yes, you're right. And science, they're eclipsing with even the scientific method. But you're right. And what's interesting too is that in many cases, we'll have abduction accounts occur, and then once they return to their home the next day, they have a malevolent haunting. So I think that someone, and I probably won't do it myself here until maybe another 5 years where I get all this other research fleshed out. But someone needs to start investigating the possibility of hauntings being the byproduct, the secondary consequence of an abduction. Or vice versa, right? Or, because, like Betty Luca returned home, she sees shadow figures in her house.
They're common.
They're common. Yeah. And so they're tethered together.
Well, in both cases, shadows, again, I think because the two of them crisscross. If you're looking at a demonic entity, for example, is it a demon or is it religion that tells you a demon? Is it really an extraterrestrial? Correct. You don't know. Correct. It's a fine line. You don't really know 100%. Shadows are just, we've had Mike Ricksecker on the show, and he looks at it completely different. I tend to think to myself, they're a bit wiggy and a little bit menacing, and his perspective is totally different. It was very enlightening. But I just,
Mike. I met him before.
Oh yeah, he's a sweetie.
He's amazing. Yeah.
But if you're thinking, if it is that fine of a line, and we're dealing maybe with one. I'll just use, demons and draconians or reptilians. It could be, is it a case of mistaken identity, or is it just simply what the mindset tells you because of how many people have been brought up in religious mindset?
It's a good point. I think that not knowing their morality plays a big part. And when we're talking about evil and defining evil, what makes them evil? They don't have to go around killing people to be a threat or be evil. And they could be evil. Right, exactly right. And knowing that they themselves have their own morality. And the scariest thing about this is if we don't understand that morality, or if it's not our morality, and if they have different values than we do as a species, we would classify them as evil because of what they would do to us. But in their
talk to a Luciferian who practices occult and magic, and who demons to them are useful.
Yeah.
Because they're taught differently than how Christians are taught.
What's the trade up?
Does it make one word? Is one?
There's a trade up.
Well,
what
you
is
have
it?
to look at it. Well, what makes one more makes it better than the other? We're both assuming one is good, one isn't good. But a Luciferian will tell you, no, we don't practice all this rhetoric. We believe in this and this. We believe in love and light and all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah. Everything you say resonates with me. So
people have the wrong idea of Lucifer.
I think it's just been how it's been integrated in or bred into our minds. Extraterrestrials, even the church is into it. It's just stuff they don't tell you about.
It's almost like an anti-archetype, like the Lucifer thing. I'm anti this, I'm anti this and all that stuff, but you're right. And again, it points to the fact, okay, we don't know the morality, and if they are self-serving or if they're not. Whatever they are as alien to us as alien can be. But then again, so would a ghost. So would someone who's translated into that dimension. I mean, they would have knowledge and stuff. So it's kind of up in the air at this point. But we do know that at least a portion of them are deceiving everybody, and just playing their game.
Somebody's playing a game. I think there's a lot of people playing games with us, right down to what's bred into you. And you think of 666, the number of the beast. No, you know what? If you go look into ancient writings, it means knowledge. Knowledge, people. Of course, the church doesn't want you to have it. They want you to have what they tell you is the proper knowledge, but that's actually what it is. It means knowledge. So it's just little things like that.
Well, numbers mean different things to different groups. Like 13 is unlucky in most cultures, but in the Italian culture, it's actually very lucky in the Italian culture. So we to the point where we have gold charms of the number 13 hanging from our necks. Like it's just, it depends on the culture. I don't think you can.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. You get a gold 13 when you turn 13, and it's supposed to bring you luck throughout your life. It's part of the culture.
I wish I was Italian. I'm a mutt, so I don't know. I don't get anything like that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, and I never understood it until I reached that age, and my mom explained it to me. I could never understand why people were so freaked out over them 13. I'm like, the 14th floor is still the 13th floor. Regardless of what you put on it. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
There's also something that's interesting that just struck me when you're talking about that. This is another reason why I kind of abandoned, Catholic demonology as a whole. Not just Catholic, but any interpretation of what demons are. Because a lot of these entities will sit there and they will use religious pop culture and carve it in the walls. Like, I forget his name, but anyways, The Haunting in St. Louis, where the guy had just bought a house, Keith Linder, the demon house where Steve Mara's group went. They carved 666 on the closet door. Why?
There's a new reaction.
Right. It's not. Yeah, and it's either the fact that it's either that or a lot of these entities are just biblically illiterate, and they don't. They're just going with whatever like you said. I think that plays a role into it because I've seen it everywhere. It's the only demons that can cast out are demons. They're Catholic.
Yeah, even the crucifix is upside down. Same thing.
It's true. And you know what? I heard a theory once, and I realized in almost 2 decades, I never really worked with Buddhists. Buddhists don't have that belief system at all. And many of the people who end up with demonic attachments tend to be, I read statistics in an article one time when they had interviewed all these people, Catholics.
You know what's funny is
Catholics. Yeah, not one Buddhist in the lot, though. Go ahead.
I know. No. I'm sorry. Buddhism is taking over Italy. It's become a really big thing movement in my generation and the generations after me. It's huge. So things are changing. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the immigrants that have come into the country, and they've been open to other ways of faith and thought. So,
but the thing is, it goes back to Catholics, and like you say, Catholics, demons, attachments. It's very dire.
We're not the only ones with the demons, though, right?
apparently for the majority.
Are we? I thought it was Christians everywhere.
They call them Christians. They're called different things. I mean, it's funny because jinn is kind of put right up there with extraterrestrials.
Yep. They have their own.
Yeah.
There's atheist jinn. There's Jewish jinn. That's a big pill to swallow, because the religion that defines them is Islam. Then how are they? You know what I mean? It's a big problem. But okay, so watch this. So like in the 16th century, we had the deep book phenomenon in Sakti, which we talked a little bit about that. How they were just basically the same program of insemination. We also had what are called shared memories, and a lot of these abductees or experiencers, whatever. They would be possessed, but they would also begin to remember things that they don't remember experiencing. I didn't do what? I didn't experience that. It's like, wait a minute, but I did. I did experience that. And so they would have to go and talk to the rabbi, and the rabbi had to say, okay, and sift through the memories. Now, one early tradition, which is, you guys will find interesting, I think, is that they believe that the memories the possessed person was remembering belong to the consciousness of the entity possessing it.
Right.
Very unique situation. But I think, again, it mirrors the UFO abduction phenomenon.
Right.
And so we have to understand that, because I think the bloody footprints will lead us to a body here. I hate to frame it like that, but it'll give us insight into this phenomenon more than just, hey, listen, UFO dropped out of the sky at 80,000 miles an hour. Okay. Can't do much with that other than freak out.
Right. It's like, wow. Yeah. It's really difficult because there's just so many good experiences out there also. Right. So it's just like, but it's like anything else. You have your good, you have your bad. It just seems like the bad are definitely not playing by any rules. If they are, they're playing only with select people who have, given them permission. If you go back into like the 40s and the 50s, you go back to Eisenhower and I believe it was Truman. They met allegedly with Greys, with extraterrestrials, and in exchange for technology, they were allowing them to abduct people. So now there's your permission. Right, there's your permission.
The covenant.
Isn't that funny? Because demonics need an invitation as well.
It's true. So here you have your permission. But yet, because what seems to be a bit of a universal law is free will. It has to be your free will. So if they're going to do something, it's free will. So they either have to scare you into thinking that this is a good thing, so you accept it willingly, or you have to go to the leader, which is kind of like a bit of a loophole. It's not real good for sure, but as a loophole, we could probably still get away with some of it. And that seems to be, the thing. But it's interesting because how free will is observed.
Yeah, and getting back to your time frame there in your 50s and 60s, the last documented true incubus encounter was in 1955 when a lady went to a psychic, and this will freak you out, man. This lady, the psychic, went into a trance, and she said ectoplasm started forming out of her, and next thing I know, it was a face, and she said, and then she blacked out. When she woke up, she had been assaulted, and the female psychic, by the way, was looking around, freaking out, and they too had samples in their presence. So what's interesting about that, though, it's almost like in the 50s whenever we started seeing these crafts, it's almost as if they transitioned, right? From not that into, okay, we're going to move towards this actual physical, we're going to pull you into a ship abduction, and not just I'm going to meet you in your dreams and try to work magic in here and stuff. But that's in Eros and Evil. But it came out of like the ectoplasm formed into an image, and so that's creepy. I don't want to ever see that in anything.
That was a big movement in the 1800s, the big spiritual movement where they were capturing ectoplasm. Some of it was like full of malarkey, but some of it they actually captured in old photographs, which couldn't fudge, which was just like amazing. So it does happen. I know. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? E.T.?
Yeah, we had a guy, like when I was growing up, his name was Suber, Jonathan Suber. He grew up in Africa. I always talk about him. He's one of my heroes. Bad.
Right.
I can't say it like I don't know curse words, I guess, on here, but a bad dude. He was a bad butt. How about that? A bad butt, bad bomb, whatever. Anyways, he would have prayer lines, and he would talk about how, and during doing exorcisms, they would spit out this white substance.
Yeah.
And he would collect it in his handkerchief and then show people and open it back up just like that, and it's gone. It's gone. So it's very interesting. We don't know what that is either, but again, I think that the phenomenon is all encompassing. It's interreligious and cross-cultural. And it's not just, it doesn't matter if you believe it's existing and it happened. They don't care, they'll show up anyways. So we're at a disadvantage. We don't know what works.
We certainly are for now until, somebody figures out what's going on. But
yeah, I know.
So this is a part of the show where you tell everybody what you have coming up, how to find you, if you want people to connect with you with their stories, this sort of stuff to further your research. Right.
Yeah, I love the stories. I've been getting slammed, man. I've had people that I don't even know refer people to me. Like and I look them up and I'm like, dude, they got a huge following. How do they even know who I am?
Wow.
So it's interesting, but I'm not doing cleansings at the moment. I've done that before, and it's not that I don't like doing it. I'm just leaning more to my research, and cleansings take a lot out of me. They do, and so I don't want to get into that kind of warfare now. So you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Nathaniel J. Gillis. You can follow my YouTube channel because I'm really starting to build my YouTube channel. I went from like 200 subscribers to like 800 something in the last 4 months. Yeah.
Excellent.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm going to. So what I'll do here frequently is I'll start putting putting videos out there about my research, keep everybody updated. But that's where I'm at right now. Right. And so that's how to come with me. I don't do cleansings, but I will definitely take your stories and converse with you, and we'll grow together.
And research, keep the research going. So, well, thank you again, as always, for joining us. And
always a blast.
Oh, absolutely. So keep us in the loop with what you have going on, and we can do this again. It's always a pleasure.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Okay. You guys are both goddesses. Love y'all to death.
Oh my God, I adore you. Thank you, Nathaniel. Stop making my mouth water with all that food.
Hey, listen. I got pants to fill now, man, because I lost 20 pounds. I gotta,
You look great.
I'll do it.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Guys, goodbye.
Bye.
Well, we have come to the end of an awesome segment. Just love him. He's just such a pleasure to have on. So big thank you to Nathaniel. Huge thank you to Folgers Coffee, who continue to sponsor us. It's just been an incredible journey because of you. So thank you. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for providing us with your music and your voice for our intro and outro. Now, please remember to stop by our network's 3 YouTube pages, which is International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. It's amazing. I can even remember that. And please subscribe. There's a lot of really great content on there, and you won't know unless you go check it all out. So please do that. And don't forget about little old us on the Outer Realm on Facebook. Give us a follow. Amelia is really great at keeping up with it. If you are looking to contact us, please, the only place you're going to get a response is at the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. The Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Tomorrow night, we welcome the return of friends Utu Witch Doctor and Kat Thagard. And they're going to be discussing folklore and cryptids in the Niagara Falls area. Basically, we are picking up where we left off on the last show because it was just starting to get really, really good. So we definitely want to just pick up there. So until then, Amelia and I wish you a very good night. And all of you behave, and we will see you here tomorrow.